eventually a federal penitentiary. It was a time when gangsters were becoming heroes to people. The government needed to send a message that crime did not pay. So they created Alcatraz, the very last stop in the country's citizenship. The place to send the worst criminals of all.
Yeah, my name is Leon Whitey Thompson. My number is 1465, AB 1465.
Listen carefully now. You're about to hear from former inmates, guards, and residents of Rock, and tell you their stories themselves.
I was a man that had total hatred in that name. I hated anything that walked the call on the earth. And when you got a man like that in prison, you got to get rid of him. And that's what they did. They shipped me to Alcatraz.
These were hard men, kidnappers, bank robbers, killers, men so dangerous that when the first batch arrived by train in 1934, not one was allowed to step down onto free soil. They simply loaded the train cars, one by one, onto barges, and floated them out to the island with the inmates chained up inside. Rumor was that if a man died on Alcatraz, his corpse would leave the same way, stone cold dead, but in chains. With men like these, you could never be too careful. The building you see on top of the hill was the inmates' new home, the Alcatraz cell house. One described it as a tomb of living souls. Some would stay for a year, others for 20 or 25 years or more. To get an idea of the accommodations inside, go ahead and reach your arms out as far as you can from side to side. That's how wide an Alcatraz cell is, 5 feet across. Now reach your hands up high above your head. That's how tall, and only a bit longer from end to end. The cell house might look huge from here, but it was never completely filled. No more than 300 inmates lived inside at any time. 300. They could all fit on this boat ride today. Notice the circular water tower. Alcatraz is surrounded by water, but on the island itself, not a drop. Fresh water had to come from San Francisco, and not by any pipeline. 2 or 3 times a week, a barge arrived, full of 180,000 gallons of fresh water. It was pumped up into that tank. The tall smokestack marked the Alcatraz powerhouse. One thing that couldn't be brought out here by boat was electricity, so they made their own. One young man was only 21 years old when he first climbed onto a rock. His name was Frank Heath, and he was a guard. In fact, the youngest guard ever to serve on Alcatraz.
I had a very difficult time. They really took advantage of my age. The old saying that misery loves company, they're very miserable, so they like to make you miserable too. They had no tailor-made cigarettes, they had no candy bars, chewing gum, soft drinks, radios, television, newspapers, rolls of real politics and programs. They had none of that, but they were sent to Alcatraz.
Men sent to Alcatraz considered themselves the elite among convicts.
But on the rock, I'm not trying to put a feather in my hat or not, but they had a lot of class. You could say they were a higher caliber of criminal. They were more or less professional, people who robbed mail trucks and banks and so forth. Some were for murders. They were a cut above average, the average criminal. Robert Stroud, the Birdman, Al Capone, Nicky Cohen, Frankie Garbo, Machine Gun Kelly. They just another stupid fool like I was, and that's the way most of the other cons felt about, because everybody was the same on the rock.
Nobody learned that faster than Alphonse Big Al Capone, Mr. Scarface himself. Capone ruled like a king in any other prison, but here on the rock, he mopped floors just like anybody else. With no one to protect him, Capone was a sitting duck. The big man was roughed up, beaten, and even sad. But Capone had carried his real killer with him to Alcatraz. A case of untreated syphilis was eating his brain. and slowly driving him insane. He ended up locked in the bug cage, the fenced-off section of the hospital for mental patients. Still the tough guy, Capone fought with his ward mate, not with guns or knives, but with bedpans, full bedpans. Afterwards, the once mighty crime czar had to be washed off with a hose. Look up ahead at the 3-story guards barracks above the landing dock. You'll also see a metal frame tower at the right corner of the dock.
The tower that you see in front of us is the dock tower. It was manned 24 hours a day. It had a large group of weapons, had a 30-06 rifle, 30 caliber rifle, tear gas gun, 38 revolver. Men were shot and killed from the tower.
One officer would sit up on the top of that tiny tower, 75 feet above the island, locked in for 8 hours at a time, watching, just watching, no matter what kind of weather.
Sometimes you thought you were in heaven. When the fog would come in, you could hardly see.
George Deacon Kingston was an Alcatraz guard in the 50s.
I was in the dock tower the day that they closed the Golden Gate Bridge. They had over 100-mile-an-hour gales, and I'm on that dock tower, and it was swinging and swaying like Sandy Gay's music. The water in the commode was spinning around. The tower was shaking, and I said, my God, if this goes over, I'll end up in a bay, locked up in this cage.
On the walls of the guards barracks, you can still see writing from the Indian occupation of 1969 to 1971. Look for the word Indian and Indians welcome. A group of 89 Native Americans claimed the island and held out here for 2 years. Historian John Martinez will explain what happened.
They claimed Alcatraz under an old treaty that said that male members of the Great Sioux Nation could homestead unused excess federal property. For the first time in nearly a century, Indians of all tribes had gathered together for a common purpose.
In the end, the Indians were forced off the island. They were probably the only inhabitants of Alcatraz ever to leave unwillingly. Up the hill, you can see a partially destroyed building with open, empty windows. This was once a luxurious Spanish mission-style mansion, home to the Alcatraz Order. It burned in a fire that broke out during the Indian occupation. All that is left is this battered shell. Looking at these cliffs passing by, you can get a close-up view of why Alcatraz is called the Rock. When the Army first arrived, the island was so barren that there weren't even any plants. There wasn't any dirt for them to grow in. Soil had to be imported here from Angel Island before anything bloomed on the rock. It didn't take long for someone to try to escape from Alcatraz. Just 2 years after the